Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, you're very welcome. This is Reading the Past and I'm Dr. Cat. First of all, I'd like to offer a small apology. You may notice that I'm quite throaty and a little bit nasal. Of course, it's winter and I've caught something from somewhere. But we must soldier on. And as it is the winter season, I thought it was particularly fitting that we talk about William Shakespeare's A Winter's Tale. Not only does it match the time of year, but I also know that for some of you, it will be part of your A-level curriculum. Today, I'm going to be looking at how this play was shaped in relation to its historical and social contexts. If there is any piece of this text that you would like me to look at in greater depth, please do leave it in the comments section down below. But for now, let's look at A Winter's Tale. As is so often the case, providing an exact date for the production of Winter's Tale is quite problematic. We put it at around 1609 to 1611 for it being written. We say 1611 at the upper limit because we know that on the 15th of May of that year, the astrologer Simon Forman reports that he saw Winter's Tale being performed at the Globe. Similarly, later that year, it was also performed at Whitehall before James I. In 1613, it made part of the celebrations for James's daughter Elizabeth for her marriage to Frederick V, who was suitably the King of Bohemia. It is first printed, we believe, in the first folio of 1623. To understand what motivated Shakespeare to write Winter's Tale, I think, as do many others, that we have to look at what inspired it. And that would be Robert Greene's Pandosto. Now here is Pandosto, and alongside it you can see I've put the plot points. At the start it seems like Winter's Tale and Pandosto are, broadly speaking, the same text. However, Pandosto is clearly a tragedy, whereas Winter's Tale ends in comedy. Why is Shakespeare reworking Robert Greene's text in this way? Many critics have pointed to the adversarial relationship that existed between Robert Greene and William Shakespeare. Pandosto, as you can see here, was first published in 1588 and reprinted in 1607, so just before we can date Winter's Tale to having been written. What perhaps spurred this adversarial relationship and maybe inspired Shakespeare to look for a reason to get back at his now dead adversary with Winter's Tale might be explained by Robert Greene's Groatsworth of Wit, which he wrote, it's believed, on his deathbed in 1592. Indeed, he died on the 3rd of September 1592. He has the following slightly unflattering things to say about William Shakespeare. He refers to him as an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers, that with his tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide, supposes he is as well able to bombast out a blank verse as the best of you, and being an absolute Johannes factotum, is, in his own conceit, the only shake scene in a country. For Greene, then, William Shakespeare is essentially wearing the costume of a playwright. He is somehow fraudulent in what he does. And in that phrase, a Johannes factotum, we might know it better as a jack of all trades. The part that comes after that sentence is, of course, a master of none. So for Greene, he spends his dying hours or days or weeks spewing vitriol about his competition. In order to understand that Shakespeare is using this reproduction and recreation and reworking almost as a mocking device, I think we have to understand better what is meant by Winter's Tale. Now, Mamilius talks about this in Act 2, Scene 1, when he says, "A sad tale's best for winter, one full of sprites and goblins." Winter's tales are childish. They are tales for children and told by children. They are deceptive and potentially, arguably, lower value. With Shakespeare reworking Pandosto and arguably adding to it to remove the tragic elements and turn them into comedy, he is essentially calling out his adversary as having written something childlike and immature, something that he, as a superior author, can do better. Of course, it is virtually impossible for us to ascertain and state with any certainty what William Shakespeare's true psychological motivations were in taking Pandosto and creating A Winter's Tale. I think it's incredibly plausible that he was attempting to stick one in the eye of his now dead adversary, Robert Greene. What is clear and evident by looking at Winter's Tale is that William Shakespeare has crafted a play of multiplicity and deception. The characters themselves both use and are victims of their own deception and the deception of others. The peddler Autolycus and the disguises and deceptions that he uses to swindle money out of people is a prime comedic moment throughout the play. Similarly, Leontes' ability to deceive himself about his wife Hermione's own deceptive adultery moves the tragedy of the first half. Another plot point is moved because the shepherd chooses to be deceptive about where Perdita has come from, what her true origins are, which allows the plot to move on in the way it does. And finally, in Hermione's statue coming back to life and removing itself from its dais, we are deceived ourselves. The audience questions where this deception is supposed to have happened. Has Hermione never really been dead, or are we being deceived by magic and trickery? However, perhaps the key moment of multiplicity or deception for the audience is in trying to determine what Winter's Tale actually is. At its start, it seems to be a tragedy. It follows all of the formulaic criteria that would make it such a genre. And yet there is that central axis or pivot point around which the play rotates and shifts and becomes a comedy. The audience is left questioning what they have seen and why we have this split genre in a play. Some have argued that the play is inherently broken. Others say that this is an intention, that Shakespeare is attempting to play with genre in these later plays. I'm interested to know what you think. Do let me know about these genre questions. How do you feel when reading or seeing this play? Has it felt disjointed to you? Have you seen productions where it's worked? Have you seen productions where it's failed? And let me know what you think the key characteristics were in those successes and failures. But of course, if we are going to talk about this pivot or axis point around which the genre shifts in Winter's Tale, we have to talk about what is arguably the most famous stage direction. Not just in Winter's Tale, not just in the works of Shakespeare, but I would say in the entirety of English drama. In all of that which has ever been put on the stage, I would say that the most famous stage direction comes in Act 3, Scene 3 of Winter's Tale, and it reads, "Exit, pursued by a bear." It is the subject of memes and posters. It is perhaps a reason why directors are so keen to stage Winter's Tale. Even people who aren't familiar with Shakespeare know that stage direction. When productions of Winter's Tale are reviewed, nobody avoids talking about how that moment was staged. Now, I can't think of another stage direction in any other play that receives so many column inches of reviewing. I wonder why that is, why we have become so fascinated by this peculiar quirk of stage direction. If you have seen A Winter's Tale, how did you see this exit pursued by a bear scene being staged? I've seen people in bear suits, I've seen shadow puppets, I've seen something slightly more abstract perhaps, with a sheet falling down. I've heard it as sound effects or lighting effects. It is one of those things that I think inspires the production, but then also becomes its greatest challenge. Because every audience member, I believe, knows that stage direction is coming. They're all waiting for it. And I think it's virtually impossible to find a way to please them all. But in the early 1600s, how might Shakespeare have staged this? Our best guess is that perhaps it was either a person in a bear suit or perhaps using one of the many tame bears that were in London at the time. Perhaps Antigonus leads a real bear across the stage on some sort of leash. But why does Shakespeare put it in there? Clearly he wishes to stage this split genre comedy tragedy. Why does he use a bear to do it? And what is the effect of it? Obviously, it marks a complete departure from the tragic elements of the first part of the play, and perhaps it better prepares an audience for them to move into the comedy that will come later. It is inherently perhaps ridiculous and maybe also awe-inspiring to see a bear walk across the stage, either a man in a bear suit or a real bear on a string. Perhaps it's designed to shock and awe an audience and to almost cleanse their theatrical palate. What do you think? Why do you think that Shakespeare uses this stage direction to act as the pivot point for A Winter's Tale? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, as I said, if you have any particular parts of Winter's Tale, the text, that you'd like me to look at, please leave that in the comments section down below. Also, if you aren't studying Winter's Tale for your GCSE or A-level and there's another play that you'd like me to do a context dive on or a text section dive on, do put that down below as well. Or come and find me over on social media and you can tell me there. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you did, please let me know by clicking the like button. Please also subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you know when I'm next uploading. I hope you're going to have a great day whatever you're doing, and I do look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Take care and bye-bye for now.